Hi again, everyone. I'm Mark Walmsley. I'm the founder of the Arts and Culture Network. We're a growing global community of over 185,000 now across our 8 arts and culture LinkedIn groups. And as you can imagine, in those circumstances, I don't get to talk to everyone, but when I do, it's a delight. And I'm having a chat today with Terry Hyde. Terry is one of our new full members, for which many thanks. We're entirely member funded as a community. So we're going to have some fun today. I'm going to give Terry an opportunity to say hello to you all and tell us a little bit about the work and the backstory for that work. And then we're going to have some fun after that. I'm going to create Terry's fantasy cultural year based on the work he does, and I have a magic wand and a time machine at my disposal for that part of our interview. So I'm looking forward to that. I've done over 300 of these now, and they're all different, as you can imagine. So Terry, thank you so much for joining me to do this today. Would you like to say hello to everyone and tell us a little bit about you and the work you do?
Hello, everyone. I'm a psychotherapist and I have a website called Counselling for Dancers. That now is only for overseas work. My work now for the UK is based on the charity that I set up. I'm now the CEO of it. It's called STEPS, STEPPS. And that is the basis of mental health support for the UK dance world. So it's not just dancers, it's dance teachers, choreographers, etc., etc. And all the other work on overseas, as I mentioned, is my counsellingfordancers.com work. I'll do one-to-one therapy sessions, workshops, so mental health workshops, mindset, resilience workshops for both student dancers and professional dancers, as well as faculty as well, so they have an understanding. The area within the dance world and mental health that I work on a lot is eating disorders and neurodiversity. Those two aspects create a lot of anxiety, and so that's my work. Why am I specialising in dancers? Well, from the age of 5, I did ballet classes. I went through, excuse me, vocational training with the Royal Academy of Dance, and finishing up with the Royal Ballet School, the senior school, and then joining the Royal Ballet, English National Ballet. It was called London's Festival Ballet when I was in the company. And then I went on to musical theatre, film and TV. So I'm bringing everything together within those two umbrellas of Counselling for Dancers and STEPS. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Terry. Well, I think on behalf of the countless people you must have helped to a great extent over the last years, thank you very much, because
That's right.
it's great that you're doing this work, because you have an enormous amount of expertise and experience in the dance world, having engaged at every touch point across there and including those different formats. So there is an awful lot that you can share, and I'm sure people will be very keen, if they're working in the dance world and know anyone or have themselves any concerns over neurodivergence issues, or eating disorders. I'm sure they'll be wanting to get in touch. To that end, wherever this appears, there'll be contact details for Terry, probably down there, because we tend to put the video at the top of the profile page. So that's great and wonderful, Terry, because you've given me inspiration for your fantasy cultural year. Okay.
Oh, I don't know whether I'm going to like this.
Well, it's there are no wrong answers. Okay.
Oh,
So
that's what I say in my workshops. Funny you should say that.
there are no wrong answers, and the questions are easy. So, um, but in order to do this, I need to place you somewhere in the world. And I should point out to our viewers and listeners that Terry has had no advance warning of this, which is the way I prefer it, because it's instinctive responses, which I love. I'm going to ask you, Terry, what's your favorite building?
notice I straightened my back there, going back to the ballet days.
Yes, you've just prompted me to do the same.
Well, I have a split really because both the Royal Opera House in Covent Garden and London Coliseum, they were both home to my London work. So one was obviously the Royal Ballet, and the other one was London's Festival Ballet, because that was one of the theatres. Now, in fact, the London Coliseum has got the largest seating capacity of all West End theatres in the UK, and it was great. It was absolutely great performing there, as it was at the Royal Opera House.
I think then with the Royal Opera House, of course, is now the Royal Ballet and Opera House, isn't it?
The Royal Ballet and Opera, yeah.
Yeah, technically. I didn't know that about the Colosseum, and I pass it many times when I'm in London, in St. Martin's Lane there. I'm going to place you at a pavement cafe over the road from the Colosseum. And you're in sight of the building, that wonderful globe that often moves round at the top, I believe. And it's 5 p.m. on a June evening. It's sunny. Let's make it 6 p.m. so we're over the yard arm. And there is a drink on the table next to you. What would I find there?
Pinot Grigio.
Lovely. So we've got the Colosseum, a Pinot Grigio. There is a book nestling next to your drink. It could be a favorite book. It could be a recent discovery. It could be a book that's been with you all your life. What book might we find there?
I can't remember the title. I know it's the Something Garden. It's Carl Jung. As he was sort of moving away from his therapy work, more into spiritual work, it's quite something. And I think he did the foreword for that.
Is it The House in the Garden?
No, it's not. It's something like the Emerald Garden or something like that. But
Oh, okay.
this is bad. I don't even know. You see, because I did all my training all those years ago, and I've obviously got it in my bookshelf, but I haven't picked it up for some time. But it was fascinating reading.
Okay. Well,
Maybe
I'm
his
still...
red book. Maybe his no, the red book. That would
Oh,
be.
Carl
It's
Jung.
not the garden. Yeah, this is all his work in the
Wow.
red book. Yeah.
I just checked that. Yeah. Yes, there it is. Wonderful. Wow. It's not cheap, is it? Crikey.
No, it's a tome.
Yeah. It's I think on Amazon it's £33. But
Oh,
that
that's cheap. No, it was when I was doing my training. It was £80.
wow.
So £33 is a snip.
It is a snip. The Red
Yeah.
Book by Carl Jung. Fantastic. Now, you've got some headphones in and there's some music playing. What would you be listening to in those circumstances?
Well, in those circumstances, if you want to be balletic about it, I would be playing the tray pack from Nutcracker. That was my favourite dance. I was the solo boy in the middle, the other two guys on the outside. And yes, that's a number
Fantastic.
I really enjoyed. If it's not balletic, then it would be Eric Clapton, any of the blues numbers that he does, because I love jazz and blues.
I like the Tchaikovsky. I think that sort of sums you all up. Now we've got those four things that have created an impression for us. So we're sitting in the sunshine outside the Colosseum with a Pinot Grigio with the Red Book next to you, and you're listening to the tray pack from Nutcracker, was it?
Yes,
Tchaikovsky. Now, someone you admire immensely is walking towards you on the pavement, okay? And you can't bring yourself not to say hello. Who is it?
Carl Jung.
There we
And I
go.
can say hello, and I can say, look, I've got your book here. Can you just discuss this with me, please, if
And
you have
sign it.
time?
And sign
Yeah,
it.
sign it. Yeah. Be worth more than £100 then.
I bet it would, yes. Wonderful. Okay, now that's our overture. Okay. Now you're feeling quite pleased with yourself because you've just come from a meeting in the Colosseum, or we might put you in the crypt in St. Martin's. Okay. Um, St Martin in the Fields is just around the corner, isn't it? You've been having a meeting with a wealthy London family foundation whose matriarch has left a rather sizable amount in her will, and she was a dancer and extremely philanthropic in the dance world. They've got wind of the work that you're doing across the dance world and mental health. Okay, and they recognize that there will be places around the world that need your expertise. They'd like to hire you for a year. Okay, the fee is extremely generous. The travel and accommodation is first class all the way. To travel the world to where you think your help might best be applied, as a kind of mission of raising awareness and solving problems wherever you can in the dance world relating to mental health issues. Our TV crew is going to follow you because they want to document this year. There is a book deal in it for you. Your journal for the year will become a book. You become the go-to commentator for all things mental health related in the dance world. You'll end up on the sofa on morning television talking about the work you've been doing. There is a TED talk when you get back. And if you wish, you can do a global university lecture tour afterwards. Does that sound like fun?
Oh, that's a dream. That would be a dream come true. Sorry, I'm getting a bit emotional about that.
You're not the
Uh,
first you're not the first, because others have gone have just said, Mark, make this happen, you know.
yes, I mean,
Um,
I'd love that. They're really good. And in fact, I was invited to do a TED talk in Chester next month. But as you can hear, my voice is a bit croaky now. And I thought,
mm,
no, I'm going to have to back out of
yeah.
that. So the TED talk was already there. The
Mm,
other contacts of when mental health issues or other issues arise, I was part of the Black Swan, I think it was called, the BBC digging the dirt in two of the UK's. So I was part of that, and also when Strictly Come Dancing sacked two of their dancers, the BBC, not the BBC, the Times contacted me, and then the Times Online contacted me, and then This Morning contacted me. So you're saying about being on the couch? They invited me up to the couch, but I couldn't get there in the following morning because I live in the Isle of Wight. It's a bit of a journey.
mm.
And then I was on a couple of radio programs. So just in that 1 week after the sacking. So I've already done those, so I know what it's like. And that's why I was getting so excited about. And at the moment, I am not trying, I shouldn't say try. I am fundraising, trusts and foundations and very wealthy people at the moment to try and get the funding, because at the moment the charity is running on what I'm earning rather than the funding. So
Yes.
none of the core expenses are being looked after. I
Well,
haven't taken any earnings, so
you
I
can
can.
relax, because one of the deals with this wealthy London family foundation is a cultural compact. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but I started one in Chelmsford in Essex a few years ago. It's the galvanization of promised financial support. So as part of this project, this family foundation are going to underwrite your operating costs for the charity for 3 years as well.
This is this fantasy that
The
you're talking about,
fantasy, the
right?
fantasy
Okay. I thought,
foundation.
no, how exciting!
Yes. So, as in gratitude for you doing this work for them, in honor of the matriarchal dancer who left an amount in her will, they want this to be her legacy, and they want you to make it happen. And in recognition of that, they're going to be lifelong supporters of steps, to remove the worry that you might have that you might run out of money.
Oh, that would be brilliant.
Yeah. Excellent. So to do this, I now have to place you somewhere. Now we need to decide where we're going to start. So you're in London. We're at Heathrow. Where are we going?
Well, I mean, the biggest country outside of UK and Europe is the US. So I've been there a few times to do workshops and to do talks as well.
Mm.
Where do I start? I suppose New York would be the start. I've already done workshops in New York, but talks as well
Okay.
would be handy. So those sort of things, and then move to Boston and the other centres where they have a Colorado Ballet,
Yeah.
all
Well,
the
we
other
can
big.
go anywhere in the world during your year of travel and research and work. So you're on the plane at Heathrow going to JFK in New York. You turned left on the aeroplane when you got on because you're traveling first class. The steward brings you a Pinot Grigio and a note from the Family Foundation who have a challenge for you. It's a musical challenge.
Mhm.
They would like you to limit your musical listening to one very specific genre of music for 12 months. What's it going to be?
That's a difficult one.
I know I give it
I
with
have,
one hand and
I
I
have,
take it away with the other.
I know. I've got such a wide variety. I love Cuban jazz. The
Mm,
rhythms are wonderful. I think once a dancer, always a dancer. I just can't keep myself still. Then I mentioned, well, I like rock and blues as well. But I suppose because this is dance orientated. I mean, Cuban, that's dance, that's salsa.
mm.
So one genre of dance, you said.
One
No,
genre of
one genre
music.
of music. One
Yeah.
genre of music. Yeah, I like ballet. It does wear a bit thin, that same genre all the time. It would have to be something that I would like to enjoy all the time. Now, you're a musician.
Mm.
Can you tell me the name of the the club, the social club, something social club?
Buena Vista Social Club.
That's it, the Buena Vista Social Club. So that genre of music.
Perfect. Wonderful. That's great. I thought it was hilarious that the head of Chinese art at Sotheby's, when asked that question, said hip hop because she said, I don't like it, but if over a year I'll get to know why.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
Good. Someone else rather cleverly chose live music.
Light.
Live music.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that a genre? That's not
No,
really a
but I
genre.
let them
No.
I let them have it because it was a clever thing to do. So
Yeah, I suppose
uh,
so.
excellent. Now we arrive in New York. Some young dancers meet you at the airport, whisk you into Manhattan. You've got a loft apartment overlooking Central Park. They say, we're going to come back later and take you out to a dance performance, and then we're going to take you out to dinner. Now, this is where the magic wand and the time machine comes in, because I can put on that stage in front of you any dance performance you wish, any dancers, living or not, any dance style, any group, any time. What can I put on the stage in those circumstances?
Okay, so the whole performance is just short pieces, just sort of variations, pas de deux or excerpts. Sylvie Guillaume
Mm,
would be Sylvie Guillaume. Now, I was a kid when Rudolf Nureyev leapt over the barriers at Orly Airport, anyways, in Paris, into freedom. Leapt over in freedom. The headline was there.
mm,
And over the years, I actually worked with him. And he'd retired. And so I was in a film called Valentino. So he was starring in it, and we were in Bournemouth doing some filming. And it was a very cloudy day, so we couldn't film. It was a misty day, in fact, because we were going into the forest, into the New Forest, to film there. It was too misty, and we were in the hotel lobby. No one else was in there, and he was at one end and I was at the other. I said, "Hi, Rudy." He said, "Oh, hi," and he came up and walked with me. "I've got to tell you something beforehand. When I was at the Royal Ballet School, we used to do extra work, either in the corps de ballet or just wheeling things on and off. So Marguerite and Armand, there was not Dame Ninette, Dame Margot Fontaine and Rudolph Nureyev doing the short ballet of Marguerite and Armand. And we would wheel the chandeliers on in a certain bit, wheel them off again, and I would have to come on by myself. And he would have his back to the audience in three quarters, and I would be facing the audience, but facing him, and offering him the whip because he was going off riding. And every night when he took it, he hit me across the hand, and then later on he'd hit my leg. Now, it was a bit painful, a bit sadistic, but anyway, when I met him again during that filming, I said, "Do you remember Marguerite and Armand?" And I told him, and he sneered, a little sneer. I said, "That was really awful of you to do that." I wasn't a student then, you see, I could tell him man to man. And he put his arm around, I said, "Sorry, Derry." So it rounded off nicely. We got the apology on that. So I'd like to see him dance as well.
Perfect, yeah.
Using the time machine, because he brought a totally different standard, not just the style. He brought a totally different standard. And when you look and compare some of the films like Romeo and Juliet, and going before that, the Romeo and Juliet what he was in, and for the Royal Ballet, you look at the other dancers, and they're nowhere. These are the principals, and they were nowhere near as good as him. So he really brought our standards up then.
Fantastic. That's a great choice. Excellent.
Yeah.
Very quickly, national cuisine for dinner afterwards.
I can't eat any grains. I'm intolerant to grains. And I also avoid a lot of carbohydrates as well. So what would I have? A filet mignon. And in this country, chips.
Okay. Steak and
And
chips.
in the other country, steak and chips.
The Terry
Hyde version.
Steak and chips. Wonderful.
Of course, I've got the wrong wine with it, you see, because I won't have that. So I'd have a Rioja, I think I would have.
A nice Rioja. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to buzz somewhere else. You can go anywhere in the world. Let's assume we've done the States. Where else are we going?
I'd like to go. I performed in quite a number of beautiful places. So in front of the plains of, front of the pyramids at Giza.
Mm-hmm.
There's an open air theatre there, mostly used for concert, but we were there. And then at the Herodaticus in Athens, a bit below the up the top, the Acropolis.
The Acropolis.
Yes. So it's down below that. So there's all these wonderful places, but I've just done last year in July. I did a couple of workshops and a keynote speech for the Hong Kong Dance Alliance. I'd love to go back there.
To Hong Kong.
To Hong Kong, because from there they have the South Koreans and all the other sort of Far Eastern places that dance there, and they were doing hip hop and all these wonderful things. And I went to see the hip hop school there. It was great. I'd love to go back there and help with their mental health.
Now, as part of our fantasy here in Hong Kong, there is a new digitally enhanced art gallery. You can put on a virtual reality headset and step into the work of a famous artist. It's not one of these projection things. You're in the painting, okay? You can move around. It's 360 degrees. It's three-dimensional. There is movement. There might be sound. You can see in 3 dimensions what the artist could only show us in 2. I don't believe this is yet possible, but let's assume it is. Into which artist's work would you want to step?
Now, what do you mean by artist?
Visual artist.
A visual artist.
Famous
Visual artist. Now, I'm not into, as in I don't recognize any names or things like that. So Can you give me some clues
Well,
as to?
there are. So Caravaggio did wonderful scenes of macabre death scenes. So I would choose Caravaggio because you can step in and walk around and see what's going on. Da Vinci's work in
Okay,
everything.
I understand what you mean. So visual
Yeah.
artists, as in painters.
Yes.
I thought you meant something that people already do, so contemporary stuff.
You can do contemporary, but it's any recognized visual artist. I want to see the view behind Mona Lisa or hide under the dripping clock in the Dali picture.
Oh yes, fantastic. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think when you're talking about Mona Lisa, hang on a second.
Oh,
You see, I'm sure you may have said to me, make sure your laptop or your
doesn't run out of juice. Yes, there we go.
there we are. We're
So
back again.
pick an artist,
So Leonardo da Vinci,
right?
and I think rather than his art, it's his technology designs
Yeah, the helicopter
that yeah,
and
the helicopter, the submarine, and
yeah,
all the other things that to be able to see behind and round and underneath and inside as well. That some of these magical things that he created and weren't able to sort of be put to use, but the imagery there was good.
wonderful. Now we're going to fast track the last five, okay? Because I've whisked you back to London and we're going out every night for the week together, doing something different Monday to Friday. So I'll give you some time to think about this because you get to choose. Monday is a historic rock concert. Tuesday is a theatre play. Wednesday is a West End or Broadway musical. Thursday is an opera or a ballet. And Friday is a movie. So quick as you can. Monday, historical
What
rock concert.
well, I've been to a number because I was
What would you love
living
to go, but what would
the
you love
t-
to go back to
what would
experience
I love to
again?
go back to and experience? Okay, the Rolling Stones in Hyde Park.
74? Don't know.
Uh,
Could have been
Possibly.
earlier. Might have been earlier.
I think it was earlier than that. Yes,
Yeah, great choice. A play.
a play. Oh, is where everything goes wrong.
Oh, the play
Uh,
that where everything goes wrong.
no, 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 not the play that everything goes wrong. Oh, this is an earlier one. This is back in the 80s. Sounds off.
Sounds off. Love it.
Yes.
Love it. Musical.
Musical West Side Story. I was in West Side Story back in 1972. The
Fantastic.
UK
Uh,
tour of West Side Story. Yeah.
We'll go to the premiere in back in with the time machine. Bernstein conducted me at the Guildhall,
Oh,
um,
wonderful.
which was great. Opera or ballet.
Opera or ballet. Uh, Big ballet. I loved. Oh, little ballet. Etude. I loved that.
Etude. Love that.
Yeah.
And finally, on your fantasy cultural year, a film.
A film. Well, it was going to be West Side Story, but then you've given me the musical. So, film. Sweet Charity.
Sweet Charity. Wonderful.
Yes.
Now you then carry on around the world doing all this wonderful work, and you're whisked back home at the end of the year. Friends and family have been able to come out and visit you for holidays during that year, and all of those wonderful things come to fruition. The book, the TV series, the TED Talk, the university lecture tour. That, Terry, has been your fantasy cultural year. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Oh, yes. My heart is thumping like the clappers with
Great.
excitement.
Thank you so much. If you're watching this then and you'd like to connect with Terry, there'll be all sorts of links wherever this appears. Um, Terry, thank you again for being one of our full members, and thank you for being such an imaginative and good sport for this today without any warning. Please don't rush off, but for the time being, thank you once again.
Thank you.